Hello, welcome to another Kings of War battle report, and this time I'm going to be using my Dwarfs against Undead, who I've never fought before. It's a 1500 point battle and it's just a normal kill scenario. As usual, I'll put the army lists in the video description and go over deployment now, starting with my Dwarfs at the top. So left to right I've got my steel Behemoth, army standard bearer, 2 organ guns. The red unit is the unit of Ironguard. At the back is a Warsmith, also on the hill, Sharpshooters and another ASB with the healing potion. 2 hordes of Ironclad, a troop of Berserker Brock Riders and another Sharpshooter Troop. Undead at the bottom. I'll just mention what the units are. That's a unit of zombies on the left, 2 units of Revenants, which are the sort of white skeleton models, and at the back is a unit of Wraiths. There's 4 characters in this army. On the far left is a mounted Vampire Lord, and then the other 3 yellow characters are all Vampire Lords on foot, and the one on the far right has got the wings of honeymaze, so he can fly. I win the roll to see who goes first, and I decide to take the first turn. I don't see any reason not to. My sharpshooters should be in range, even though the organ guns are out of range, and I can start bringing the Brock Riders round by the ruins to come round to his flank. Also, I just advance the Behemoth slightly. I'm anticipating that mounted Vampire Lord coming up through past that forest, and just want to get into a bit of a better position. And in shooting, my sharpshooters just put 2 wounds on one of the units of Revenants. Undead turn 1, the main body of his army just marches straight forwards. On the left hand side you can see the mounted vampire has marched into the forest. Now he shouldn't be able to do that, but my opponent was under the impression that individuals weren't affected by difficult terrain, and I couldn't really find the right bit of the rules to clarify that, so rather than be too nitpicky, I just let that slide. You know, I wasn't going to cause too much fuss about it, and after the game obviously I managed to clarify it with my opponent, so we play it right in future, but that's why he's in the forest, in case you're wondering. And you will notice the flying Vampire Lord has flown right into the middle in between our 2 armies now, and if you look at his position, he can actually charge anything he wants to in my army next turn if I don't kill him or waver him. And in the shooting phase, one of the Vampire Lords just surges a unit of Revenants forward slightly. Dwarfs round 2, the steam tank just advances slightly to be within 12 inches of the mounted vampire. Ironguard pivot round, and the Ironclad in the wood just pivot a little bit. Bring my Brock Riders round to the flank of his winged Vampire Lord, and hopefully I can get rid of that Vampire Lord, and then my Brock Riders will be in a good position. If he decides to just keep advancing his army, I might be able to get a flank charge off with them. In the shooting phase, the steel Behemoth gets very lucky with its breath attack and does 3 wounds to the mounted Vampire Lord. I unload both units of sharpshooters and both organ guns at the winged Vampire Lord, do 4 wounds to him, and manage to waver him. So this is Undead round 2, movement phase. His army just advances some more. The 2 Vampire Lords on foot, they've got speed 7, so they are pretty fast. They come round by that rock, which is impassable, and the mounted Vampire Lord charges a unit of Ironguard, and he just falls back with his wavered winged vampire. And he can't shoot or anything, he can't surge anyone because his vampire's marched. So this is the shot of the board after combat, and it's a bit confusing at first until I explain what happened. So the easy part is his mounted Vampire Lord did 7 wounds to the Ironguard, who are fine, and annoyingly vampires have life leech 2, so he heals 2 of the wounds that he previously suffered. Okay, so you'll notice on the hill is his winged vampire, who has destroyed an organ gun. And the reason being is that before the game advanced too much further, I realised that I had got way too many hits with my organ guns against him, because I'd counted the 5s as hits and I hadn't taken into account the fact that being an individual I get -1 to hit, so in fact I only hit him on 6s with the organ guns, re-rolling 1s of course for the Warsmith, but with 30 shots I got a pitifully low amount of hits, and I basically only ended up doing I think 2 wounds to him instead of 4, meaning he wasn't wavered. So the game hadn't gone really too far for us to just let him move the vampire, which obviously, being in the position that he was previously in, he was in range to charge the organ gun and heal back the 2 wounds that I'd caused as well. So I now have got absolutely no idea what I can do about that vampire, because all my range units are move or fire, so I can't exactly just turn around and unload all my guns at him. And I can't turn around and charge him, obviously, because he can fly, so I cannot catch him with anything in my army. Really stunned at what this vampire guy can do. They're very, very expensive, I think 220 points, but defense 6 and the individual rule make them really tough to take down with shooting, I think. And obviously having wings just makes him insanely manoeuvrable as well. So things have gone from looking kind of okay to I just don't know what I'm going to do. I charged the Ironguard into the mounted vampire. Unfortunately my Behemoth is not angled correctly, so I have to pivot that. No point advancing anyone, so I just await the charge from his other vampires and hope I can take one of them out. I can actually see over the rock when I'm on that hill, so I can fire everyone at his other vampires now. But he's just outside charge range for my Brock Riders, unfortunately, with the vampires by the rock. And in the shooting phase I pour everything I've got into one of the Vampire Lords, so that's an organ gun and 10 sharpshooters, and only managed to do 3 wounds because that -1 to hit is really rough. And even though all my ranged troops have got piercing 2, he's defense 6, so I'm failing a lot of wounds as well. 3 wounds is as good as nothing on a Vampire Lord, really, because he can heal them back with life leech 2. You can heal 2 of them back. And in combat my Ironguard do 2 wounds to the mounted Vampire Lord. Yeah, it's probably good for them. They've only got 12 attacks with no crushing strength, but obviously it's not going to be enough to worry that Vampire Lord just yet. Undead round 3. The mounted vampire charges back into the Ironguard. The one Vampire Lord who had suffered some wounds and the unit of Wraiths charge the central unit of Ironclad. Just looking at the pictures here, so Wraiths are shambling but they can fly, so they've got very big charge range. They can charge 20 inches. Looking at the previous slide, I think the Wraiths actually would be blocked from charging, with the Revenants being in front of them, because they're both infantry units, and the unit leader of the Wraiths definitely can't draw a line to my central unit of Ironclad because it's blocked by the Revenants. So basically the Wraiths fly over the Revenants and charge them, but they shouldn't have been able to do that, I don't think. Obviously he could probably have moved the Revenants in such a way as to give the Wraiths a clear line at the unit, but they haven't moved in that way in this picture, so I just didn't catch that at the time. There's always a few rules here and there that just even with a relatively simple rule set like Kings of War, there's a few rules that you just miss. So anyway, the Wraiths and the Vampire Lord go into the Ironclad. I'm not sure what the other Vampire Lord is doing. He's just hanging out by that rock. Zombies go into the wood, and the Revenants are coming round by that rock as well. Oh yeah, and his flying vampire charges the other organ gun as well. So here we are after combat. The mounted vampire does a few more wounds to the Ironguard. I forgot to mention last dwarf turn I healed a couple of wounds back onto the Ironguard, so he pushes them back up to 9 wounds now, and obviously takes himself down to only 1 wound suffered. The other Vampire Lord and the Wraiths do 7 wounds to the Ironclad. Fortunately, because it's a Horde, they're not in any trouble yet, but very annoyingly he has also only suffered 1 wound with that Vampire now. And that's it, so we're on to Dwarfs round 4 now. So here's my movement phase. I flank his mounted vampire with the Behemoth. He's an individual, so you don't double your attacks in his flank, but still, a Behemoth in the face is never a good thing, even if you're a Vampire Lord. Faced a bit of a tough decision with who was going to charge the Wraiths, but I figured if I flank them with the other horde of Ironclad and then charge the front with the first unit of Ironclad, I can then put the Brock Riders into the flank of his Revenants, so that way I get more charges off. I'm going to be honest, I thought I had him here. Thought if this turn went well, I might be able to take a big chunk out of his army, but I hadn't done the math in my head, so we will see what happens. So shooting, both my organ guns are dead now, and the unit of sharpshooters who are over by the wood on level ground are blocked completely from shooting anyone, so that just leaves the sharpshooters on the hill. Now that Vampire Lord by the Wraiths isn't in combat, I only charge the Wraiths, so they can see him because they're on the hill, and they put 2 wounds on him, but he's fine. I think my Warsmith, because he's got a pistol, I think he has a pot shot at him as well. And here we are after combat, so let's go over this then, starting with the mounted vampire. I do a total now of 8 wounds to him, because the red dot represents 5 wounds, and the purple star is a wavered symbol that my opponent's using. So I was a bit disappointed not to have killed him. I think I just didn't roll that well for the Behemoth, but he's going to die next turn I'm sure, but that's a bit frustrating. Both hordes of Ironclad combined do 2 wounds to the Wraiths. That is just abysmal. I mean, I guess though Wraiths are defense 6, and also, which I didn't realise until combat, my unit of Ironclad in the flank started their charge in the forest, so it's a hindered charge, meaning I'm only hitting them on 5s. So a lot of misses there, and I'm only wounding them on 6. I could really do with some crushing strength right about now. The Brocks in the flank of the Revenants do pretty well. They do 11 wounds, not enough to kill them, but I should be able to finish them off soon. Undead round 4. So the zombies are coming round to get the Behemoth, and I'm sensing a Walking Dead moment coming on.
Yeah, you in the tank. Cozy in there?
The Revenants countercharge the Brock Riders, and here we can see the real power of melee individuals when he puts the Wraiths and 3 Vampire Lords into my Ironclad. So the Flying Vampire Lord charges into the back, and 2 others into the front along with the Wraiths. So yeah, they only have 8 attacks each, and they don't get any increases for rear or flank charges, but that's 24 crushing strength 2 attacks they're getting. Combined with the Wraiths, I think that is going to kill that unit in one go. So combat, and sure enough, that does destroy that unit of Ironclad, and the 2 vampires who were in the front advance, so the vampires end up in a little line by the hill. The Revenants only do 3 wounds to the Brock Riders, so I think I can kill them with a counter charge next turn, although I will lose my Thunderous Charge unfortunately. Dwarfs round 5. The Ironguard and the Behemoth try and finish off that mounted Vampire Lord. Brocks into the Revenants, and I've got my other horde of Ironclad, so I'll just put them into the Wraiths. I'm not going to do anything to them. I couldn't even kill them with 2 units of Ironclad, so, well, I couldn't kill them, I couldn't even scratch them with 2 units of Ironclad, so 1 in the front is not going to do anything, but what else am I going to do? You know, I'm not just going to leave that unit standing there, so you never know. I could get insanely lucky. Shooting sees me put 3 more wounds on one of the Vampire Lords who was already wounded, so he suffered 4, but he's still fine. Really wish I hadn't deployed that other unit of sharpshooters on level ground. I should have put them on the hill as well. Don't know why I put them over there, but they've been blocked for a couple of turns now and unable to do anything, so that's 100 points wasted. And in combat I finally kill that mounted vampire lord with the Behemoth, and the Brock Riders kill the unit of Revenants, so I don't go home empty-handed at least. The Ironclad put 2 more wounds on the Wraiths, which is not enough to be able to destroy them, even if I roll double 6. I think Wraiths are blank 16, something like that. So a couple of units dead, but it's all going to be over next turn, I think. Undead round 5. 2 Vampire Lords and the Wraiths go into the Ironclad, Revenants into the Brocks, and another Vampire Lord into the Ironguard. As you probably are aware, individuals can essentially charge in a 360-degree line of vision because they can pivot on the spot before they receive their order. And the zombies charge the Behemoth. So in combat the Behemoth takes a wound, surprisingly, from the zombies. I only take 11 wounds on the Horde, but they're going to die next turn because I can't take out any units in between now and then. And the Brock Riders only take 3 wounds and survive, but that one Vampire Lord does kill the unit of Ironguard and heals himself as well with his life leech. In shooting I heal a wound on the Horde and put another couple of wounds on one of the Vampire Lords, who's fine. Do a few wounds in combat here and there, but it's obviously nowhere near enough to wipe out any of the units and prepare myself to be annihilated. So we're on to his round 6, and everyone charges back into their respective combats, with the wounded Vampire Lord charging into the sharpshooters on the hill. And predictably everyone ends up dead apart from the Behemoth. And that is it. We rolled for another round and we did get round 7, but we just called the game there actually. I might get those zombies, but it's still a massive victory for the Undead. I just was at a complete loss as to how to counter those Vampire Lords. I thought I had a decent amount of shooting. Any more shooting than that I think that might have been too much, but it was just hopeless at killing the vampires. And then once they were up in my face, I just wasn't doing enough wounds to them to overcome their healing abilities. I just really needed some crushing strength in my army other than the Behemoth, because when I countercharged vampires it just wasn't enough, and also the Wraiths with their defense 6 as well were a big problem. I think they have defense 6 and crushing strength, so they're pretty good, like quite versatile. So that was a very interesting battle. I've never fought an army with so many powerful heroes before. In fact, I wasn't aware that Kings of War could be played that way, but I'm glad that it can actually. It adds a bit more variety to the game, and it's probably quite thematic for Undead, I would imagine, to have these powerful heroes running around killing everything while the troops just sort of form a plodding backbone to the army. So I reckon I'll have to think about adjusting my list to deal with these sort of armies if they come up. Someone did mention, I think one of the people who was watching the game, that playing scenarios sort of evens things out a bit because heroes can't claim objectives, so that's something to consider actually. And I probably will start rolling for scenarios at some point, maybe next battle. So I hope you enjoyed the battle. I hope if you're a Dwarf player that it wasn't too depressing, and if there's anything you think I could have done better other than adding more crushing strength to my army, do feel free to let me know in the comments. I'm always looking to improve. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.